is brought to you by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value, welcome home, America.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to SpeedWeek. I'm Bob Jenkins. For weeks, the auto racing community has been wondering about the future plans of Michael Andretti. Will he go to Europe to race Formula One, or will he stay here in America to race Indy cars? Well, Michael has made up his mind, and with the details, here's Chris McClure in Denver, site of tomorrow's Texaco Haviland Grand Prix.
Well, Bob, the bottom line reads that the Newman-Haas team will remain intact for 1992 at least. After his long and serious look at Formula One, Michael Andretti has renewed his contract for 1 year. Partly because of a sense of urgency expressed by the Newman-Haas people, and partly because it was more and more apparent that there would not be a quality Formula One seat available.
The key was when Nigel Mansell won those 3 races in a row, because he was going to be the key man in this whole scenario, because when he did that, I think it sort of solidified his position in the team, and all those rumors of Senna going to Williams, I think, were starting to fizzle.
The new contract for Michael Andretti does not mean that his Formula One quest has ended. At the same time, Mario Andretti has signed a new 2-year deal with Newman-Haas. Mario held short of announcing any retirement plans, but he did indicate this could well be his final contract.
I think to be able to put together a program that has any meaning, you have to have more than 1 year to look forward to, and the way I feel now, I feel that I could go beyond that. So I think 2 years was a safe figure to look at, and it's something that you know, Carl left entirely up to me and Paul, and they've just been so fantastic.
Virtually all of the major and minor sponsors have renewed their contracts as well, giving another level of consistency to the Newman-Haas effort. But there could be a change. Carl Haas is still seriously considering a switch to the new Cosworth engine instead of the Ilmor Chevrolet that they've employed since 1987. Haas has seen the Cosworth perform on the dynamometer and came away impressed. And he says they should have a decision in place in the next week or two. From Denver, I'm Chris McClure, reporting for SpeedWeek.
All right, Chris. The Texaco Haviland Grand Prix can be seen on ABC tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern. In a little less than 8 hours, the Grand Prix of Belgium Formula One race will begin. You can see it live here on ESPN beginning at 7:55. Bob Varsha will anchor the telecast and has the story of one driver who won't be there.
The Belgian Grand Prix this weekend will take place against a backdrop of Belgian outrage over the case of Bertrand Gachot, the young star of Eddie Jordan's fabulously successful Formula One team. He's a Frenchman of Belgian parentage who was sentenced to 18 months in an English prison last week for spraying a London taxi driver with CS gas, the equivalent of mace, after a traffic altercation last December. It's an illegal weapon in England, and though Gachot didn't know it, he was sentenced to 18 months without bail, and so he sits in an English prison with no chance of having his appeal heard until September. His replacement this weekend is young German Michael Schumacher, the star of Mercedes-Benz World Sports Car Junior team, who has topped the timesheets in many of the sessions this weekend and will start his Jordan Formula One car in the 8th spot for tomorrow's race.
Well, Bob, Team Williams won 5 straight pole positions before Ayrton Senna got back on track in Hungary. What about this weekend?
After another magical Formula One qualifying session, Ayrton Senna is on pole for the 58th time in his career, having cut 2.5 seconds off his own course record here at Spa. But the real star of qualifying was Riccardo Patrese. He failed post-qualifying scrutineering after posting the second fastest time and will be buried all the way back in 17th spot on the grid for tomorrow's race, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. And with 6 races to go, Senna holds a 12-point lead over Mansell in the battle for the World Driving Championship. The IMSA Camel GT season is quickly drawing to a close. Only 1 race remains after tomorrow's Nissan Grand Prix of Road America. But the big story is a spectacular crash which injured the defending event and series champion. Derek Daly reports.
The news here this weekend, Bob, surrounds Jeff Brabham, the current IMSA Camel GT points leader. He had a huge testing crash here on Thursday. Eyewitnesses said that he had a left rear tyre failure at about 180 miles an hour, flew off the racetrack right here at pit exit, and actually went end over end as high as that Miller sign there. The Nissan then came to rest in the new gravel pit at turn 1. Now, you remember this pit was designed right after A.J. Foyt's accident last year, and Jeff was lucky because it kept him off the embankment. He was airlifted to the Milwaukee Regional Medical Center, where he was listed in good condition with 3 fractured ribs, 2 compressed vertebrae, and multiple contusions and lacerations. It really is a startling new development in the Camel GT Championship for Jeff's teammate Chip Robinson and for Bud Light Jaguars' Davy Jones.
We came here with the idea that we had to win the race to win the championship, and that's still the case. So, you know, nothing has really changed.
I hope that he's okay, and I hope that he's able to race on Sunday. If not, then you know we're just still concentrating and keeping our momentum on winning the championship. But it's going to be a great championship race at Del Mar. It'll be very close.
Bob, as you can see, I'm in my business attire this weekend because I will, in fact, fill in for Jeff Brabham. Nissan will run 3 cars here in an attempt to also win the Manufacturers' Championship. On another note, I think it's worth mentioning, it's a tribute to the strength of the Nissan car that after such a violent impact, the cockpit area of the car was very much intact, saving Jeff Brabham. As regards his recovery, we're not sure how long it'll be, and we don't know when he'll be back in the seat. This is Derek Daly for SpeedWeek.
This has been a tough season for Jeff. Despite the fact he leads the point standings, he's only won 1 race at Sebring. He could have clinched the 91 GTP title by earning 10 points more than his teammate Chip Robinson.
SpeedWeek is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value, welcome home, America.
Coming up, the Busch cars bang at Bristol. And 7 is lucky for Steve at Knoxville. The latest balloting for the McDonald's Winston Cup All-Star team still finds Dale Earnhardt at the top of the list. To cast your vote, dial 1-900-737-TEAM. At the top of this broadcast, we brought you up to date on what happened earlier tonight at the Bud 500 Winston Cup race at Bristol International Raceway. Well, Friday night, Busch Grand National drivers got their turn on the half-mile high bank facility. Dr. Jerry Punch has a story of the Jay Johnson 250.
Defending series champion Chuck Bound won the pole, his 5th of the year. Rookie of the Year candidate Jeff Gordon was alongside in row 1. It was your typical Bristol race with lots of close competition and numerous spins and crashes. Just past the halfway point, Richard Lassiter got sideways down the backstretch and collected Morgan Shepherd and Jimmy Spencer. All drivers were okay. Shepherd and Spencer, though, were through for the evening. Points leader Kenny Wallace, who started last because he missed the drivers' meeting, and worked his way to the top 10 before this tandem spin with Michael Waltrip. Dave Resendez was lucky to escape uninjured after his spinning car took heavy impact from Dick Trickle near the end of the 250-lap affair. Dale Jarrett is on a hot streak. He won the Winston Cup race at Michigan last Sunday, and he picked up his 3rd Busch Grand National win of the year here at Bristol. A close battle for second between Bobby Labonte and Jeff Gordon was won by Labonte. It was Dale's 8th Busch Grand National career win, but his 1st at Bristol. For SpeedWeek, I'm Jerry Punch.
The next race for the Grand National drivers is next Saturday afternoon at Darlington. We'll have live coverage beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern. Last weekend's champion Sparkplug 400 at Michigan International Speedway will long be remembered for several reasons. It was one of the closest finishes in history. It was Dale Jarrett's first Winston Cup win, and it was the Wood brothers' first victory since May of 1987. John Kernan reports.
The phone is rung off the hook, flowers have arrived, and just about everyone has congratulated the Woods on Sunday's win at Michigan. In fact, they were just putting the final preparations into the Bristol car for Saturday night's race. It had been a little more than 4 years since a Wood Brothers car had visited Victory Lane, and the team found its way back in style with a gutsy pit stop in the final laps and then a door-banging, fender-rubbing drive to the line by Dale Jarrett.
You know, we've been working pretty hard for the last couple of years to get to that point again, and when it come, it was, you know, it was just like starting over again or something. You know, you were there, you were right there in our pit, and this was the greatest thing we've done.
I knew it was going to be awfully tough, beating Davey back as strong as his car had been all day long, and I was just going to try to hold him off. With him on the outside, it would have been easy for me to do something like run him into the wall or spin him out, and that's not the way that I wanted to win the race.
The win has also sparked a little more interest in the candidates available to take over the Woods ride next year when Jarrett departs for Joe Gibbs' new team. And they've pretty much whittled down the list to Jeff Bodine or Morgan Shepherd.
Yeah, right now, which, it changes by the minute, and right now it looks like, those are the two we're most interested in, and I hope to have something done within a couple of 3 weeks, maybe.
In Stewart, Virginia, I'm John Kernan reporting for SpeedWeek.
Dale's win continued a streak in which there has been at least one first-time winner in the Winston Cup Series the past 15 years. Turning now to sprint cars. Last week we showed you highlights from the first 2 nights of the Knoxville National, sprint car racing's biggest weekend of the year. We also told you that Friday night's feature was rained out, but before the skies opened up, there was plenty of action. At the start of one of the 8-lap heat races, Tommy Lee Williams slid up into the first turn fence and rolled over a couple of times. He wasn't injured. In another heat, the only female driver in the 180-car field, Melinda Dumsney from Australia, hit the 4th turn wall and, with the steering broken, slid across the track and head on into the inside guardrail. She, too, escaped injury. Shortly afterwards, the rain started to fall, postponing the feature events until the next afternoon. Gary Lee has a story of Saturday's doubleheader.
You rarely see sprint cars running during the day at Knoxville, and the track was quite dusty. At the start of the 20-lap non-qualifiers feature, Larry Neighbors took a nasty tumble as the rest of the field scrambled to miss him. Tommy Estes Jr. went on to take the victory. So the stage was set for the $50,000 to win 30-lap Knoxville Nationals A-Main. And Steve Kinzer, starting from the pole, would be the favorite. So who's going to win?
I don't know. Whoever finishes first. I don't want to see Steve get hurt, but I hope the car breaks again.
I've been coming here for 31 years.
Who's going to win?
Who cares? It won't be a very good show.
Remember last year when Kinzer dropped out early and then Sammy Swindell and Bobby Allen battled to the finish with Allen winning? Well, this year was just an exact opposite. With a crowd of over 22,000 on hand, Kinzer started from the pole and led all the way. Allen wasn't even in the big show. He didn't get past the C-main. Doug Wolfgang ran over an errant wheel and was forced out of competition with a flat right front. The best racing was for 4th place between Sammy Swindell in black and Johnny Herrera in red. But after moving past, Sammy could advance no more. Kinzer beat Kenny Jacobs and Mark Kinzer in winning his 7th Knoxville Nationals title. For SpeedWeek, I'm Gary Lee.
With 26 A-feature victories and his win at the Kings Royal at Eldora, Kinzer has pushed his yearly winnings to near the $400,000 mark. And you wonder why he doesn't leave sprint cars for some other form of racing? Well, not all sprint car drivers were at Knoxville last Saturday. USAC held its annual Holman Classic at Indianapolis Raceway Park, where Eric Gordon beat Robbie Stanley. IRP will host the National Hot Rod Association's U.S. Nationals next weekend. The drivers tuned up for it at the Quaker State North Star Nationals in Minnesota, and not everything went according to plan. That story and more next. Defending Winston World Champion Joe Amato had a chance to do something last Sunday that had never been done in drag racing history, win his 4th straight national event. But his weekend and that of one particular funny car driver turned out to be somewhat less than successful. The driver we're talking about is Jack Wyatt in the far lane, who lined up against Ed McCulloch in the first round of eliminations. Moments after leaving the line, Wyatt's 1989 Pontiac slammed the wall, burst into flames, and then hit the opposite wall. The Allerton, Iowa driver somehow managed to get the car stopped, but with the car engulfed in flames and smoke building up in the cockpit, he was unable to free his belts and escape through the roof hatch. The NHRA Safety Safari was on the scene in a matter of moments, but it had to seem like an eternity to Wyatt. He was helped from the wreckage, scorched helmet and all, and was pronounced okay by medical personnel. In Top Fuel, Amato did make it all the way to the finals and was a quarter of a mile away from the record we mentioned earlier. Hoping to end Amato's string and to regain his early season form, Kenny Bernstein. Kenny beat Joe off the line, and that was the difference. KB held on for the win despite Amato's better ET, ending Joe's hopes for 4 in a row. Afterwards, Kenny could hardly contain himself. A big win heading into the U.S. Nationals.
No, it was a great race, and when you get up there to race Joe and those guys, you better be ready and do everything you can, and our team did a great job. It was a great team effort today.
Amato told us in one way the loss was good because there's no pressure to win 5 in a row at the upcoming U.S. Nationals. Other winners at Brainerd, John Force in Funny Cars and Darrell Alderman in Pro Stock. 650 miles an hour. That's the goal Art Arfon set for himself at this week's 43rd annual Bonneville SpeedWeek. Arfon's brought his latest creation, the jet-powered Green Monster, to the Salt Flats, hoping to break the current land speed record of 633 miles an hour, despite a shoestring budget.
If you could get sponsorship and get some money, you could build something to go really fast. But this is backyard stuff and not too much invested.
Arfon's runs early in the week were well below the record. In fact, his fastest was only 350 miles an hour. He's one of more than 300 at Bonneville searching for speed records. Steve Weiss is there and files this report.
This is it, the World Series or Super Bowl of land speed records. Every 2- and 4-wheeled vehicle built is put to the test. How fast can they go in these ideal conditions? Miles and miles of a smooth, hard, salt surface. Roger Mears Jr., nephew of Indy star Rick Mears and son of off-roader Roger Sr., made his first trip ever down the long straightaway in the pursuit of speed.
We planned on going 200 miles per hour and we'd be happy. And right now we're trying to break 204, so we're really happy with the way things are going.
There are an abundance of competitors and classes, and so what is fast is relative to what you're driving. 18-year-old Carly Wiley is chasing the mark of 63 miles per hour established for 50cc motorcycles. Whether it's 60 or 600, there's simply a thrill to going fast.
It's hard to explain. It's just a great feeling.
The thrill of speed is what 75-year-old Fran Bannister is after. In 1950, he put his wife and 2-year-old son in his 32 Ford and drove from Massachusetts to Bonneville just to see how fast his car would go. He recorded a speed of 127 miles an hour. 41 years later, he's back to try and match that performance. His first run of the week topped 125. Fran says it takes just as much concentration today as it did 4 decades ago.
You get out there in the wind, and especially in the salt, the thing starts to swirl a little bit. You got to pay attention to what you're doing.
Everyone out here is going fast, but a select few have spent countless dollars and hours designing special vehicles built for only one thing: maximum speed. They go above and beyond the limits the rest of us can only imagine. They're called streamliners, and 300 to 400 miles an hour is standard stuff. They're pushed to a speed where low gear kicks in. Nolan White is one of a handful to crack the 400-mile-an-hour barrier and says the key is consistency.
I'm finally getting up to where I'm feeling comfortably that I can run 400 miles an hour by any time I take it out of the trailer.
Records are made to be broken, and sometimes there's hardly time to celebrate because the next guy in line pushes the mark a little higher. A year's worth of work is put to the test for 1 week on the salt. From the Bonneville Salt Flats, this is Steve Weiss reporting for SpeedWeek.
Ground transportation arranged through General Rent-A-Car, where free unlimited mileage and quality Chrysler cars are just 2 of the reasons people on the move are racing to General.
The FIA's World Sports Car Championship has been idle since Le Mans nearly 2 months ago. A lot of testing has been going on since that time, and it showed last weekend at the latest round at the Nürburgring. The time off resulted in the best qualifying performance of the year from both the Mercedes and the Peugeots. But it was once again the Jaguars that paced the field. Emerging from the second row, though, to take the second spot was KK Rosberg in one of the Peugeots with newly designed bodywork. He would progress no further. Midway through, the former world driving champion hit a patch of oil, causing him to lose control and spin off into a sand pit. Teo Fabi, who was quicker than Jaguar teammate Derek Warwick in practice, also fell victim to the slick track, but recovered from 2 spins to finish second. The other Peugeot, meanwhile, driven by Mauro Baldi, actually led for a while, but lost an engine, putting more oil down on the track, and that was enough to bring out a full-course caution. The Mercedes effort, left to reigning series champion Jean-Louis Schlesser after his teammate Michael Schumacher retired with a broken throttle linkage, had moved to within a few seconds of the leading Jaguar, but then he too fell out of the contest with gearbox problems. Warwick, with help from David Brabham, led the XJR14 clean sweep. Both were 6 laps ahead of the third-place Porsche, driven by Manuel Reuter and Henri Toivonen. There's an interesting bit of trivia associated with co-driver David Brabham's victory. It came on the 25th anniversary of his father Jack's first German Grand Prix win at the Nürburgring. Sir Jack was one of those in attendance last Sunday as the Monterey Historic Races honored the Great One. That story when we return.
Has been brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. Most of the historic video seen on SpeedWeek is courtesy of Dick Wallen's Racing Classics.
The Denver Grand Prix IndyCar race has a first-time pole sitter. Remember last year in the inaugural race, Teo Fabi in a Porsche had fast qualifying time but lost his brakes and crashed into a tire barrier. Of course, that team isn't in the series this year. With Jeff Brabham out of action, Chip Robinson and Davy Jones hope to gain ground on the IMSA GTP points leader. Here are the top 5 qualifiers for the Nissan Grand Prix of Road America. For each of the last 17 years, the Monterey Historic Car Races have honored an automobile manufacturer. But this year, for the first time, the honoree was a person, the Great One, Juan Manuel Fangio. Bob Kelly reports.
He's like the Babe Ruth of auto racing, one of the most successful and charismatic stars the sport has ever seen. A man best described by those who competed against him.
He was 5 times world champion, which is pretty good going, but he was also the greatest gentleman, and that I think is even more.
This grand gentleman is now 80 years old, but Juan Manuel Fangio is still a hero to these American fans. Born and raised in Argentina, Fangio speaks very little English, but nephew Juan Manuel Fangio II understands both the racing and the roots of his uncle.
And also he thinks how much his parents were suffering when he was driving, because now it's happening to him.
Fangio began racing at an age when most drivers have long since retired. He was 40 years old when he won his first world championship, 46 when he won his last. Fangio started 51 Formula One races, and he won 24 of those races. But he says his greatest accomplishment is not winning, just living.
Yeah, he said that in his time, it was very dangerous because the cars were not very secure, and in 10 years, 30 drivers were killed. So it was a different time, and that's why he saw that just go through that period, it was one of the best things that happened to him.
In Monterey, California, this is Bob Kelly reporting for SpeedWeek.
And that will do it for another edition of SpeedWeek. Next week, we'll switch nights again and be on at 7:30 Thursday night. But we will be on at that time each week through at least October. That's Thursday nights at 7:30 Eastern. We leave you with the final lap of the Champion Sparkplug 400 won by Dale Jarrett. So long, everyone.
They bump, they touch, they rub, going down the backstretch, side by side, wheel to wheel. Who is it going to be in the Champion Sparkplug 400? Jarrett has the slight advantage as they go into the 3rd and 4th corners. Davey Allison battles back on the outside. It's going to be a photo finish. They touch coming down through the triangle at the line. Who wins it? I believe Jarrett.